Roy Smith is our grain marketing analyst this week. The latest crop conditions report shows the country's farmers have harvested 7% of their corn and 3% of their soybeans. Nebraska producers are only 6 percentage points behind the state's 5-year average with 4% of corn picked, but close to the average in beans with 3% of harvest complete. While markets have been relatively calm this week in comparison to the past few, the USDA will release its latest grain stocks report Monday, which may or may not make a difference. We started our discussion with Roy Wednesday afternoon by asking about the progress underway near the Plattsmouth area.
Just getting started with the harvest, very few beans done, a few fields of corn here and there done. We started Monday and thinking we were going to go full steam and found out that it was a little wetter than we anticipated, so the sound you hear in the background is a dryer fan running.
The sense you get from the national crop is what? What do you think this crop might look like across the country as you see or read things online?
It's been interesting following the commentary online and also on the various news services. Some of the areas that we normally expect to have really outstanding yields, Iowa, Illinois, and to a certain extent southern Minnesota, they're thinking their yields aren't going to be that great. And you know, I guess I would have maybe said that too about eastern Nebraska, but the corn that we combine really is coming out, we're probably going to get our APH yield or maybe a little better than that, so you can't complain about that.
Yeah, Iowa and maybe Illinois, even Nebraska might be a little lower than average, but the East Coast kind of looks like it might make up for that. On the flip side, it doesn't look like at this point frost is going to be a major concern. We might kind of dash that one.
Yeah, well, we're always concerned about frost at some point, and the concern this year has kind of come and gone, and it doesn't seem like people are too worried about it. I think maybe the thing that we need to be concerned about as individual farmers is if this crop was planted late and then we had a relatively cool spell this summer, a lot of people are probably going to find out, like I did, that when you pull into the field, that corn is not as ripe or not as dry as we thought it was. And at some point that may get to be a concern individually, but probably nationwide it's irrelevant.
As harvest starts to roll around here, what are you noticing as those loads start to roll into the elevator as far as basis goes?
Well, the basis kind of came unglued this week, like it does in most years when you have a good crop coming, and that is that, for instance, earlier this week I was in the elevator and they were offering a 40 cent a bushel premium for corn to be delivered this week. And Wednesday afternoon I was in there getting some moisture tests, and that 40 cents had turned into 11 cents, and probably by the time you hear this, it'll be 0.
Well, let's not go too far now. We don't want to be too negative. Beans have really not had any fuel to get going. They shed a lot of money off the contract last week, and with tight stocks that a lot of people think are there doesn't seem to be anything that really gets them going.
It was an interesting thing to watch because, as you know, one of my standard sayings is you need to sell beans the day before the September crop report. This year it would have worked better to sell them the day of the September crop report, but still that's pretty close. But I had people say, well, I'm not going to do that this year because stocks are so tight that beans are bound to go up. So what happened? They went down 70 cents. And then I get phone calls, you know, why did they do that? Well, there's a psychology there that says that there's a harvest coming. The processors know that in a week or 2 weeks, if they're patient, that there'll be beans sold, and so they're not going to pay up for them like they might in a month or so when the harvest is getting pretty well out of the way and we have that proverbial dead cat bounce. And so, you know, we had all those things going on. It made for an interesting week, and for those who sold the day before the September crop report, it was a pretty happy occasion.
Where could you see the harvest lows being for corn and soybeans?
Very reliable in soybeans for the harvest low to be around the 2nd of October, and for corn it's about the same date, maybe a little less reliable, but it's kind of interesting to lay out those charts and see the corn and soybean futures and see 20 years of history or 5 years of history, doesn't much matter. 1st of October is a day to kind of hang your hat on in terms of expecting to see the price go up after that. And so, you know, I hope it works that way this year.
What are you looking at in the December charts? The last time we were here, you mentioned that December might show something of a rally. Does that still hold true?
Well, I certainly hope so. On Wednesday of this week, we saw a little bit of a reversal in the soybean market where the beans started out lower and ended up closing higher on the day. And the commentary was that the commercials are back in the market buying. Well, that's two things that favor the possibility of a little dead cat bounce coming here, and that is that we got some real honest demand from the commercials, and we've got that little bit of a reversal in the charts for the speculators to hang their hat on. So, you know, there's some interesting things going on here, and I certainly hope we've seen the lowest price of the year and we can get a nice rebound off of this.